Connecticut, Dannel P. Malloy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to be with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you. Sit down. I want to thank you for inviting me to speak with you tonight. This is an old tradition, and I'm happy to be renewing it this evening at your invitation. During one of the most challenging times in our state's history, you have all stepped up, reached deep, and worked hard for the people of Connecticut. We have not always agreed on the best path, but I know that every person in this room had their hearts in the right place, regardless of party. I could begin and should begin by thanking a great public servant, Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman. I'm lucky to have you as a partner, and I thank you. I thank you, Nancy, for your close counsel, your tireless work ethic, and your friendship. Thank you. I want to thank the Democratic leaders, President Don Williams, Speaker Chris Donovan, the majority leaders, Marty Looney and Brendan Sharkey. You've shown courage, you've shown toughness, and I thank you for your partnership and your leadership. And I want to thank the Republican leaders and members. We had our differences, but I have always respected your views, and in particular your commitment to supporting legislation designed to create jobs and rebuild Connecticut's economy. Thank you for your leadership. Let me say that I'm proud of what we've accomplished this session, but very mindful of how much more work there is yet to do. We began this session by saying that we needed to focus on creating jobs and that we needed to address a budget crisis. We have done those things and so much more. Congratulations. On the job front, you approved several important economic development initiatives that will aid in the creation of thousands and thousands of jobs in the coming years. The first 5 initiative to attract more employers, which I hope becomes the first 50 or perhaps the first 100. The forward-thinking and ambitious proposal at UConn Health Center, which I am confident will help us create thousands of good-paying, much-needed jobs in the short and long run and make Connecticut a leader in bioscience. And the Airport Authority, which I think will help us maximize these underutilized resources. As much as we focused on job creation, however, the signature effort of this legislative session was the budget. But that, too, was done with an eye towards job creation. As you've heard me say many times, we needed to send the business community a message that we're serious about stabilizing the state's finances, and we did that and then some. To the Democrats who took my budget, made it better, passed it, I say thank you. It was a tough vote, but it was the right vote to make. It's an honest budget that ends the games of the past and puts Connecticut on the road to a better tomorrow. The budget also begins the process of restructuring and remaking state government into a 21st century vehicle for job creation. So while it reduces the number of budgeted state agencies from 81 to 57, it also creates a new Department of Energy and Environment, linking those two issues in a way that will allow us to create jobs, lower the cost of energy, and yes, protect the environment. Consolidating state government on paper was the first step in reinventing government. Now comes the hard part of implementing those changes. We all know that there's one more step that needs to be taken for the budget to be locked in: the ratification of the agreement reached with the leaders of state employee unions. I'm sure I speak for a lot of people in this room when I say that I hope they ratify this agreement so that we can avoid going to a Plan B, which will mean large-scale and long-term layoffs. Upon ratification, Connecticut will have a state government that is sustainable. That means government will be able to provide the services that are needed, but at a lower cost to taxpayers. That said, this budget is nothing to celebrate, not when it asks so much sacrifice from so many people. Let us hope that this is the last time we need to go down this road. While the budget dominated much of our time, I'm pleased with many of the other accomplishments. They're significant, and we should all be proud of them. There are children who might have gone hungry, and we found money to feed them through the expansion of the school breakfast programs. There are people working hard at low-wage jobs to provide for their families, and we found a way to make their road easier by implementing an earned income tax credit. There are people who might have been forced to go to work when they're sick, and we found a way to give them the decency of a paid sick day. There are people who might have been discriminated against because of their gender identity, and we found a way to make sure that they're treated with the same decency and respect that we would all want for ourselves. There are young people who might have been tagged for life as criminals because they made a dumb mistake, and we found a way to give them a second chance by passing into law some long overdue criminal justice reforms. On each of these issues, and a few others, we managed to pass into law progressive policies that will define Connecticut as a place of common decency. I mentioned all of your accomplishments not as a shared victory lap, but as acknowledgement of your collective hard work. But as much progress as we've made, in some ways our work has just begun. Two things will dominate my time over the next few months: jobs and education. And I think in many ways these issues too are linked. First, let's talk about education. We did some important things on education during the session. We maintained funding for local education. We put a down payment on universal pre-K and reformed our higher education system, which was an administrative mess. Having said that, much more needs to be done, and I hope education reform will be the focus of the 2012 legislative session. While that's what I want to focus on come January, here's what we really need to focus on now: jobs. It's an emergency, and we need to continue to treat it as such. To that end, I am marshaling the resources from every corner of state government by asking all agency heads to participate in a tangible way with plans for job creation and economic growth. I've also asked my Commissioner of Economic Development, Catherine Smith, to work with me for the next few months as we crisscross this state to listen and share our ideas with the business community about ways that government can aid in job creation. In the next few days, I'll be reaching out to the legislative leaders to talk about having people come back here in the fall so that we can have a special session that should be devoted to one issue: jobs and job creation. In the legislative session just ended, we made some real progress on some important issues, and we began to fix what was broken for so long here in Hartford. We should feel good about what we did, but we should also be mindful of how much more work there is still to be done. So now I thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I thank you for the hard work of this session, and thank you for your dedication to public service. May God bless you, and may God bless the great state of Connecticut.